Ongoing sponsorships. Now, this is what a lot of social media influencers look for because this is a sponsorship where a brand is sponsoring your channel or a blog or a podcast. So therefore, you're receiving money. Usually, it's pretty good money that you're getting on a regular basis. Most of them pay on time, or at least guaranteed to pay you at some point. We'll get into it at a different course. And of course, the fact that it's ongoing, you don't have to consistently go and look for another sponsor, work with a different brand, and try to meet and work with different people and team. That saves a lot of time, and therefore you can dedicate that time to either making more content or creating a different social media following on a different platform. I'm sure you understand there's plenty of time that you can spend somewhere else except for just chasing sponsors. Now, we just talked about this in the previous section, but I want to mention once again, getting sponsors is a big deal. I have a different course on that, so you can sign up and see that as well. But it does come with some repercussions. And it's going to be up to you to work out a deal with the brand where you don't feel like they own your soul. It's very important. And once again, please, 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 please do not sell out. That will be the end of your full-time job, essentially. So let's talk about ongoing sponsorships and what it is and how you do it. And again, I have a different course about how to get these sponsors and how to create contracts with them. It does take sometimes a very long time, especially because you're a smaller YouTuber or Instagrammer or blogger and so forth. So it does require some very personal relationships that you have to build. A lot of times, the one-time sponsorship is where it starts with a brand kind of tries you out and says, oh, wow, I really like the content. I really like how professional this social media influencer is, and they will give you another shot. A lot of times it will be another one-time deal and maybe a third one, and then they'll order a series and so forth and so forth. But let me tell you how most of this works. Think of it as a television deal of a sponsor when, again, Nike sponsors ESPN's a certain show, or if Nike buys the print advertising in your local or national, probably national newspaper. All right, so let's talk about this. On-screen branding. And this is where we talked about podcasts, and remember where you cannot offer on-screen branding. But a lot of times you're doing content that is either video or pictures where you can put someone's brand on screen. In my case, I put my sponsor's name on the top right here where it says Social Income Academy. I have my sponsor's name there. So no matter which video you're watching, if it was sponsored by that brand, you will know about it. You'll see a lot of times during sports games, next to the score, there will be a logo of a company that's sponsoring or one of the sponsors of that telecast. And this is essentially the same thing. You could be wearing a jacket or swag from that brand that counts as well, or for example, here's a water bottle from my sponsor for my main channel, and you can be drinking out of it. There are different ways how to do on-screen branding, but that counts because your audience knows you're supporting the brand, you're getting them familiar. And whenever a brand signs up for an recurring sponsorship, big part of it is branding, meaning they don't necessarily want to sell something in particular at this particular point of time to your audience. They want to make sure that your audience understands that they're the brand they want to trust. They're the brands that they want to try, and it does not happen overnight. They want to just put it in their heads, and therefore putting it on the screen over and over and over in your videos or in your blog or even mentioning in your podcast. That is what they're looking for, branding. All right, so the next one is shoutouts or ads of their own. We've talked about pre-roll ads. We've talked about banner ads that you put on in your blogs and websites. But you can do it yourself. This is where you either create an advertisement, a graphical or video for your sponsor, and you insert it as part of your content. Now make sure that it is okay with the terms of use of the platform that you're using. YouTube is usually fine with it. Instagram is usually fine with it. But again, things change. Please check with terms of service before doing that. But a lot of times there's nothing wrong with you saying, listen, this video is sponsored by, or this blog is sponsored by. So this is very acceptable, and brands love that. Whenever you're doing your own thing for them, especially if it's in your own voice, right? One thing, you shot a video for them and you kind of inserted it in the middle of your content. That's still pretty good because a lot of your viewers can't really avoid that. It's not a pre-roll ad you can skip. But a lot of times, I really encourage you to do it with your own voice. That works for a podcast. And of course, that works when you mention your sponsor in a section of your blog. In my case, I usually go for about 3 or 4 minutes of the news. And then there's a cliffhanger. And I would say, all right, well, let's talk about something that's happened, that you guys really going to be excited about. But before that, let me tell you about my sponsor. Now, I only talk about my sponsor for about 20 seconds. So it's not even worth fast forwarding through. So my audience will all of a sudden sit there and listen to a new car or a new accessories company or a new insurance company for electric cars. And sponsors absolutely love doing that because you're essentially recommending them to your audience in your own voice, whether it's actual voice or in pictures or in text. You can still have your voice there, and it is exactly what they're going for when they're going for the help of social media influencers. Dedicated videos. Now, we talked about review videos that essentially are a video that you make about a certain product or a certain brand. As long as it goes along with your real content, as long as your audience is actually interested in that product or maybe comparison of a few products, definitely do that. But don't just do it because you want to earn some money, but the content not necessarily doesn't necessarily fit in with your content. And definitely don't recommend any brands or products that you don't use or endorse yourself. Make sure it's a product you're behind, even though it's just one video. But if you're a technology blogger or YouTuber or Instagrammer and you want to review a camera from a certain brand, that will send it to you. You'll probably get to keep it. And there will be an entire video about this brand. Now, it's very important then when you get paid for your videos or blogs that you actually mention it somewhere. On YouTube, you actually need to check a checkbox as well that this video is sponsored by a specific brand. I have it right there, right above the name of the brand, sponsored by. I also put it in the description of my video, and I also check that box saying that this video is sponsored by a brand where I receive money for doing the video. So it's very important. And again, it goes back to your integrity. You want to make sure that your audience knows that you got paid for this, and then they can make a decision whether or not they will believe you. Most of the time they will, because you are the YouTuber or an Instagram or a social media influencer they're already following and trust. But it's just in a good taste, and a lot of times it's right there in the terms of use of that platform to make sure that you inform your audience that you're getting paid to do those videos. They could be fun videos, by the way. It doesn't really have to be a review. It could be something a fun or a funny video, or a video that you already been doing. You're just incorporating the product into it. It's called product placement, right? So whatever it is that you agree with the brand, dedicated videos is definitely one of the ways to go. And when you're making this ongoing deals, because dedicated video sounds like something you just do one time. Not really. In my case, I sell this as a package. So if you have a 6 months deal with me, I will create a dedicated video every month, and therefore we can come up with a strategy for your brand. So for example, if in April you're all about sales, when people get their tax returns, then we will advertise a certain product that's on sale. But if the next month you want to emphasize safety of your product, then a whole different type of a video is going to be posted, and therefore the brand will create a content strategy within your social media following, within your social media content. They love doing that because they understand it works for them. And you need to understand it as well. You definitely want to make sure that you're not just taking your brand's money, you're giving value to your audience, but you're also serving the needs of your advertiser. Brand ambassadorship. Now, this is some real heavy stuff here. If you really get in with a brand, they will make you a brand ambassador. And I'm a brand ambassador for one of my sponsors, and those could be really cool. So, for example, they might have you host videos on their YouTube channel or on their social media. That's one of the ways how they might actually have you host their events in some areas, or like for example, I've moderated some panels that my sponsor have put together at different events. Or sometimes you can be in their display booth in different trade shows if that's what your brand is into, or events where you'll be basically part of their staff. You might actually be interviewed by media, so they need somebody to talk about their product. That would be you. So brand ambassadorship is not a joke. Yes, a lot of times it's celebrities who get those, but listen, they need a spokesperson a lot of times. They need somebody to do this job who is used to being in front of a camera, who loves the brand, especially if you're passionate about their brand. They will actually love for you to do it, even though you're not a celebrity, but neither is their marketing person that they otherwise would put on camera or have a media interview. So brand ambassadorship is a great way to get in with the brand and make a little bit extra money, or sometimes you throw it in for free because they do give you some publicity because of that, and that works for everybody. Now, last but not least, because there's so many different ways how you can do it, and this is really going to be up for your creativity, is content for your brand's use. And this is something that I've done before as well. You create content that feature their products or their logos in your social media content. But a lot of times you can say, listen, for an extra, for a little bit of extra money, or even for free, just to get a deal, I will produce an extra picture or an extra 60-second video or something extra for your social media. So you guys don't have to pay a professional photographer or hire a video crew for your event. I will do it for you. And a lot of times the brand will say, oh, wow, that's great, because having this YouTuber make a video for us and be in that video a lot of times, or those pictures, that's great. That's a double whammy. So now I have to say, as I'm making this video, I'm just about to sign a contract with a sponsor that is going to have me produce a series of videos for their social media without ever appearing on my channel at all. So they don't want to be advertising right now on my channel. It just worked out that way because they're a local brand for a specific city, and my channel is basically nationwide and really worldwide. So they won't really, reach, 99.9% of my audience is not their target audience, but they really like the way I make videos. I am local, so it's easier to work with me. I'm one of the few social media influencers here in town anyway. So they're making me produce a content for just their social media. And of course, we might negotiate where it will go on my channel as well. So there's so many different possibilities. That's why I said last but not least, because this list is really should be endless. Whatever works for your brand, the brand that you work with, come up with different ideas. Brands love it when you kind of think outside of the box. If you can incorporate their message and what they're trying to do with your audience into something that's fun and easy for them to understand and produce with you, they will go for it. So please don't just follow this list. Now, this list works, and I've done all of these, and this is why I'm presenting it to you. But please make sure to come up with your own creative ways, because a lot of times that would be the difference between them picking you, a maybe smaller social media influencer, and a bigger social media influencer that just doesn't have time to think about it and brainstorm and create and put all of this effort. So please think outside of the box. Make sure you understand. I'll leave you just with one more example. For example, and this is just literally happening as I'm making this video. There was a New York Times article about how electric cars are all bad, and they've conducted this experiment when they drove an electric car from one place to another, and they had to spend so much time charging, and which turned out to be not true. But now there's an opportunity, and I might be working with a brand where we'll make the same trip in a different electric car, because they picked a really bad electric car that's been around for way too long. And we're going to make sure that the charging has been done in much shorter period of time. And that would be a publicity stunt, because this is a hot topic. This is New York Times, and this is a great PR opportunity for them. Now, is this a part of any of this standard ways how they advertise? No, but this is an opportunity. I came up with this idea. As a matter of fact, I'm proposing that we stop by in every city that we're going through and pick up a copy of New York Times and then spell out truth out of it and have a nice drone shot at the end of it. It's all creativity, and there are some brands that are interested, and hopefully we can do it. But this is just another example of how you can think outside of a box and win a deal from a brand that otherwise may not work with you. I hope you're inspired by this, but let me talk about a couple of other ways, active ways how you can make money on social media. So let's move on to those.